these aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact Friday. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to another 5 Fact Friday video, which is supposed to be a newsletter, but this week that just wasn't possible. Let me just click the go live on Instagram. What a week. Allow me to kick off with this. So the 5 facts, let me run through them quickly. I'll let Abby tell you the first one.
We've got breaking news in the property sector. The Bank of England has just dropped interest rates to 4.75%. This is massive. All year I've been saying this. Interest rates drop, property prices boom. If you're not buying property now, you need to, because we're in for a hell of a 2025.
Is it just me, or is she unhinged? So base rate cut is fact number 1. Fact number 2, 25%. House prices are going to rise 25%, apparently, in the next 5 years. Fact number 3, Sainsbury's said that the national insurance increase is going to cost them £140 million, and that they can't absorb that, and that it's going to result in either food prices going up, or staff wages not going up, or staff job losses. That's my point. Is when you spread that out across all businesses, it's going to impact the economy and wages and growth, and therefore the housing market. Fact number 4, Angie Rayner has announced that she's planning to end right to buy completely. And fact number 5, which is where I'm going to start now, is the record house prices. So a well-known lender from the north put the house price index out again this week, and I haven't even bothered to read it because there's just no point. But I just saw the headlines in the newspapers about how record house prices, but then the small print, but actually it's a very, very slow increase. And I'm going to talk about why the record house price fallacy is a fallacy, because of the difference between nominal and real, and how over time, as nominal house prices always go up over time, eventually you can repeat the record house price thing almost every, like, multiple times a year. Okay, and that leads me into this house price fallacy. And is everybody there, by the way? Sometimes I've been talking to the camera and I'm not even live, and no one even knows. Yachek D says, "Look at me." Okay, hello James. Hello. Yes, prices to the moon. Absolutely. This is a really serious point. I have been on the road this week, and I have been with very, very good agents. And those agents have been telling me, and this is why you need to get out and see people, see your customers, sit down with them in their offices in person, because they say things to you in person that they won't say over a video call or a phone call or an email. And that is why I think that working from home is overrated. Progress and quality of conversations is always better in person. And I was told things that genuinely shocked me this week. I've been around and seen a few agents, but the consensus is they've never known a more difficult market, and the landlord's market is going to be absolutely decimated for agents, because not only are there landlords selling up, but there are landlords who can't sell up, who want to sell up but can't, because they're in negative equity with an interest-only buy-to-let mortgage, and they're just trapped. They're trapped renting a property out to tenants. And there are agents who don't see a future for the lettings industry, or they see a contracting future for lettings agents. And the other 2 interesting things that they commented on were that on the long term, if you took the long-term average of buyer inquiries coming from Rightmove, they are now half. This is not just 1 month here or 1 month there. This is the long-term moving average. They are now down to half what they were a few years ago. And these are in markets that apparently were supposed to be doing better than average in the UK. And there is this massive disconnect between what we see reported in the media about the housing market and what's actually going on. I've had agents saying to my face that this is already worse for them than 2008 was. This is more like the early 90s right now. Now, because of how slow motion the property market is, we never find out until long after the fact when the land registry eventually reports things. Now, they're not necessarily talking about house prices, okay? I'm not discussing necessarily prices up or prices down. I'm talking about transaction volumes and transaction times and the difficulty of getting deals done, the rising costs of getting deals done in the face of ever harder fee competition from cheaper agents getting more and more desperate to list no matter what, which is actually accelerating their demise, because if you list properties you can't sell because they're overpriced, that's just going to put you out of business faster if you're an agent. So I want to explain the basis about, why do it, so let me get my head straight. It's been a very long week and it's not over yet. After my stint on the hard shoulder of the M5 last night, I'm still not home, and I may not even get home today because of things I won't bore you with. Why? This is a conversation I'm going to repeat to you that I had with an agent this week. I said, what's more important to you? House prices going up or transactions going up? And they're like, it's transactions. Yeah, definitely. And this is a major misunderstanding that the public have about estate agents. The public thinks that estate agents want house prices to go up. When actually, if you said to agents, you can either have house prices going up or you can have transactions volume going up, they would always choose transaction volumes going up because they make more money from more transactions. They don't make more money from house prices going up. So why then do they always put out these puff pieces like they have this week about house prices going up 25% over the next 5 years and everything's great and house price index is record house prices? I mean, there are people selling detached houses all over the country going, where exactly are these record house prices? And of course, it isn't all house prices. It is an average index figure that is not even an average. It is a much more complicated calculation, and there's no transparency in how it's calculated. And whilst it might reflect an underlying trend, people are beginning to understand more and more and more that the housing market is the market of a million anecdotes. Every single property has a unique market for itself, not only because of the property itself, but because of the seller's situation and lots of other, the neighbors, the smell, and all kinds of things that make every property unique, right? There is no housing market. And when you talk about the housing market, you can only talk in average terms, but the average doesn't tell you what's happening anywhere. And yet the media reports it as house prices have done this and that. And everyone goes, oh, that means all house prices. And of course, it never does. You have a 98% chance of either being above the average or below the average, but very, very, very few people are actually at the average. But uninitiated house movers, first-time buyers and first-time sellers, who don't pay attention to the detail of the confusing and complicated process of selling houses, just go by the headlines, right? Okay, so why? If agents want more transactions and rising house prices doesn't help them, why do they always talk about rising house prices? I also said to the agent I was talking to, by the way, I said, you know why the public doesn't trust estate agents? And he went, go on. And I said, because no matter what's happening in the housing market, estate agents only ever say that everything's brilliant. That's true, isn't it? Oh, it's brilliant. It's buoyant. and it's resilient, and it's booming, and its prices are going up, and it's just always good. It's always positive, positive, positive. It doesn't make any difference what's actually happening with transaction volumes, what's actually happening with prices. It's always just brilliant. And then you have this kind of utter guff put out by these two estate agents this week that hit all the headlines about 25%. Nobody knows what's going to happen to house prices. And they're talking about national averages, which again is of no use to individual movers wanting to move right now. It is designed to achieve two things when agents put out press releases like that. Number one, it's designed to get publicity for those agents. That is the sole reason that agents go to the time, hassle, and expense of preparing press releases and sending them out, right? Because it's publicity for their brand. It gets their brand mentioned in the papers. That is the only reason they do it. They will say whatever they want to say about their predictions. And yeah, there are people there who are trying to get the predictions right. But the thing is, the housing market is influenced by so many things that are beyond anyone's control to influence, that are impossible to predict, that these long-term price forecasts are just ridiculous. And Richard Donnell at Zoopla, who's head of data and director of data at Zoopla, director of research, he has said repeatedly, don't expect any nominal house price growth for the next 5 to 10 years. Okay. He thinks volumes are going to be okay. He doesn't think prices are going to fall. He thinks they're going to flatline, and that might be a good thing. But nevertheless, agents put it out. Now, so, okay, what's to stop an agent going out and going, well, actually, we're expecting prices to fall for these reasons. Now, there is a good reason why agents can't do that. And that is because 80% plus of home sellers are cluelessly over-optimistic, and they only want to talk to optimistic, positive agents. Agents who put out realistic or even negative house price commentary, even if it's true, tumbleweed. Sellers don't want to go near them. So I don't blame agents for always talking the market up. They're doing it to try to get more homes to sell. They're doing it to try to get business. And it is not their fault that sellers ignore them if they're actually realistic and truthful about the market. Okay? Again, face-to-face conversations with agents this week. Every single seller we talk to wants more for their house and wants to put an asking price on higher than we advise them. Almost every single one. And that brings me on to something else, by the way, about why agents don't tell you over the phone what their fee is. Because it depends how realistic or unrealistic you are as a seller. Because if you're unrealistic as a seller, you're making yourself more expensive and more risky to that agent. So they're going to charge you a higher fee. But if you are realistic, forward-thinking, and cooperative, you're going to get a lower fee because it will cost the agent less to get your house sold. There's a better chance of them actually selling it. That is why it is completely reasonable that agents can't just quote a fee, because their fee depends on you, the seller, and how down to earth you are. And very few sellers are in touch with reality. Even the sellers, including friends of mine, and you know who you are if you're watching this, that I have held the cold hard facts in their face, and they've gone, yes, I see what you're showing me. I hear what you're telling me. I understand the logic. I can't argue against it, but I'm not going to drop my price because that's the price I want. And I say, you do understand that it doesn't matter what you want for it. It only matters what the market will pay for it. Yes, I understand, but I'm sorry, I cannot bring myself to lower the asking price. I don't know why. I just can't do it. And if you're a seller like that to an agent, you are just a waste of money for that agent. You're just a waste of money and a waste of time. And you're costing them money all the time you're on the market with them. So that's why agents can't just quote blanket fees, and they never do. They just can't. Oh, I've gone off on all kinds of tangents, haven't I? Let's come back to this. So agents can't be honest about the state of the market when the market is difficult because it loses them customers, right? That's just a cold, hard fact about the property market. And when they talk prices up, as I pointed out to them, the more expensive something gets, the fewer people buy it. And when house prices go up faster than wages, fewer people can afford the houses. And so transaction volumes fall. And this is the simple, mathematically provable fact that estate agents do not understand. It's why I've put in one of the titles here, self-harming PR strategy. If you talk house prices up, and if house prices go up, you will sell fewer houses. Now, there is another misnomer amongst agents, which is that if we tell everyone that house prices are going up, it will scare buyers into buying because they're worried they're going to miss out and the property market's going to fly away from them. That has happened in the past, right? It is true that that has happened in the past, but it's not happening now. It's not happening now. And there's very little danger of that happening for quite some time. So, if those agents have put out a press release saying house prices to rise 10% in the next 5 years, 2% a year, actually lower than that compound, that's basically at inflation. Well, that's not going to get you headlines, is it? It's just not going to get you headlines. So putting out a press release with a, let's say 10%, let's say 25%, let's pick a round number for a headline. You're not going to put the effort into sending out a press release. It's not going to get published. But you put out a press release with a big fat number on it. Oh my God, everyone's seen it. And because it's in the papers, there are still a very large proportion of this country who believe it if it's in the papers. Well, it must be true. It's in the papers. The papers don't have to check whether it's true or not, or even if it's credible or not. All they have to do is say, that's what they said. They said it, not us. We're just reporting it. Okay, this is why there's a sort of lack of journalism. They're just copy and paste press release monkeys who just copy and paste press releases and don't actually question and go, let's challenge that agent on those assumptions. Let's do some actual journalism. Doesn't happen. Does not happen, even though the housing market is that important. So, sorry, that's a big old ramble about the record house price fallacy. If you include inflation, house prices are not at a record high. So if you're talking about real house prices or real house values, they're not at record highs. Okay, and nominal house prices, and again, it's an average figure. I remind you of this, right? The two big building societies that do house price indices have a 30 grand difference in what they say the average house price is. That's more than a 10% difference. If you want to know how inaccurate and rough estimates they are, okay? Just ignore national house price headlines. It doesn't mean anything for you and your move. Ignore it and demand better. If you're commenting on these stories on newspaper websites, put in the comments, when are you going to tell us something actually helpful rather than just repeating estate agency press releases, who are companies who can't ever be honest about the market anyway because it would damage their business. Right, okay, end of that rant. Number two, so the base rate cut. They have cut base rates. The base rate's cut from 5% to 4.75%, which means that there now have been 2 quarter point base rates cut this year, but they haven't made any difference to the housing market. Nothing appreciable anyway. Why is that? Well, first of all, at the beginning of this year, I said that my expectation for rate cuts this year was 1 rate cut the whole of this year. It's been 2 rate cuts, but there we are. It's nowhere near the 4 rate cuts that the market was expecting in the beginning of the year and everyone else was expecting. But in any case, everybody over fixates on base rates. Does the base rate affect the economy? Yes, of course it does. Does the base rate affect mortgages? Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. And in this case, it hasn't, because mortgage rates are not directly linked to the Bank of England base rate. If you want proof of that, go back and have a look at what happened in 2008, 2009 to mortgage rates when interest rates went the base rate, the Bank of England base rate plummeted. Mortgage rates carried on as they were, right? And that's what's happening again now. And that's why that is a worrying sign, because why would they be cutting base rates when gilt yields, which is the cost of the government borrowing money, is going up? It's very unusual for the Bank of England to cut their base rate in the face of rising gilt yields. And rising gilt yields is a much closer indicator of what's going to happen to mortgage rates than the Bank of England base rate is, right? But it's not such an easy headline to follow. Gilt yields correlate quite closely, or more closely, with swap rates. And swap rates is the market where mortgage lenders borrow their money to lend you to buy a house. And mortgage rates are already discounted below the Bank of England's base rate anyway. So they're already not related to the Bank of England base rate. And they've been ticking up. And they're kind of, no one's quite sure where they're going to go from here. They might go up, they might go down. It depends on what happens in the bond market more than what happens with the Bank of England base rate. Okay. So that's one of the factors this week. The Bank of England has cut the base rate, and it's going to make no difference at all. Despite crazy Abby saying, base rate's been cut. Oh my God, house prices are going to boom. Oh, dearie me. She's one of the biggest house price Ponzi puffers there is. She sells leveraged buy-to-let, basically. She's promoting the concept of everyone getting rich on the back of buy-to-let. Free money. Okay. So that's 2 facts done. 3. My concern, as everybody knows, is people overpaying for a property, and in doing so, increasing their risk of negative equity if they have a large loan-to-value mortgage, and increasing their risk of being unable to sell when they need to sell, and therefore increasing their risk of adverse things happening to them in their life. And working out what's overpaying and what's not overpaying is quite hard. But what's happening to the national insurance, the employer's national insurance contributions, has now been roundly confirmed by the Financial Times and by Bloomberg and by lots of commentators. If you want to go and look it up, go and look it up. You hear them talking about it, that one way or another, it hits people in the pocket. It hits working people in the pocket. It hits employed people, not self-employed. It hits employed people in the pocket. If you are a self-employed contractor of a company that's been hit with these increases, then it will hit you too. Overall, not perhaps individually, but the simple fact is that the housing market is fueled more than anything else by employment and by real wage growth. Both of those things have just been hit in slow motion by this national insurance increase. The national insurance increase does not come into effect until the 1st of April next year, but the companies like Sainsbury's, saying 140 million pounds that's going to cost us, will be making adjustments now. For example, planned wage increases may be lower or not happen at all. Planned employment, new job creation may not happen. And for example, there might now be slightly more layoffs than there already were. You've got to remember that this is in the background of a business and an economic environment where we've already got the highest number of business failures and insolvencies since 1994, right? We already, before the budget, we're already there. We've already got record numbers, record in the last 30 years. I think it's since they started recording, in fact, record numbers of business failures already happening. And a 1.5% increase in, or 1.2%, increase in national insurance contributions for employers may not sound like much, but as a percentage of their profit margin, if their profit margin is like 3 or 4%, and a net profit margin on a lot of businesses who employ staff, that's not unrealistic, right? You're talking about wiping out a third to a half of that profit margin. If for companies that are have got very slim profit margins. This is a much bigger hit to businesses than the politicians understand, because if they understood it, they wouldn't have done this. They'd have done it a different way. And in fact, it's already been expected by some commentators and economists to cause economic depression, meaning that the Treasury's tax take will now be lower than forecast, forcing yet more tax rises and forcing us into a fiscal doom loop of ever rising taxes and ever falling economic growth. That is what's already happening if you've got your finger on the pulse and your ear to the ground in the UK-based business community, whether it's being reported or not. I mean, you talk to any business owner, and it's going to hit employment, it's going to hit wages, and it's therefore going to hit people's buying power for houses. It's going to reduce confidence. It's going to reduce confidence in moving, because whether you're upsizing or downsizing, there are moving costs. And don't forget, on the 1st of April, those moving costs go up by way of stamp duty thresholds coming down. So on the 1st of April next year, the housing market is going to get a double whammy of poorer people with less money with which to buy homes, fewer people employed, and higher moving costs by way of stamp duty for anyone, all first-time buyers above 300,000 and all other buyers above 125,000. And if you're buying a second home or a buy-to-let, it's even worse, but that's happened already. So Sainsbury's coming out and saying there's no way we can afford to swallow that cost increase without passing the cost on to customers or staff, because there's no one else that can pick it up, right? If you are a business that suddenly has a huge cost increase foisted on you, whether you are a small company employing 5 people or Sainsbury's employing thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, and if you don't have big enough profit margins to absorb it, then either your customers or your staff or both are going to get hit by it. Okay? Every single employer in the country has been, I mean, I love this, just to prove how fiscally incompetent the new regime is. And I think regime is the right word, by the way, for these guys. I didn't know this, but I saw a report and it made me laugh out loud. The employer's national insurance rise is going to cost universities more money than the increase in university tuition fees. Let that sink in. Universities are being forced to increase tuition fees because they're on the verge of bankruptcy. But whoops-a-daisy, the government's just increased their employers' national insurance contributions bill to an amount that actually totals more than the increase in their tuition fees. Absolute clowns. Honestly, if I was employing people in a department to work out these numbers and these plans and they came up with this, I would fire them. They would be fired for incompetence, gross incompetence. And this government is in charge of how our taxpayer money is spent. And they're not only not going to create growth, they're going to kill growth, and that's going to hit the housing market. Right? That is not an expectation. For those of you who still struggle with the difference, you trolls out there, struggling with the difference between a prediction and an expectation, they are different things. I might expect something to happen. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? It's just what I expect. If I'm predicting something to happen, that's different. That means I think it's extremely likely. I'm nailing my colors to the mast and saying that's what's going to happen. And I am nailing my colors to the mast and saying that the government's budget moves are going to kill the economy. And I think we're then going to witness this government experiencing what the Democrats just witnessed in America. What happens when you stuff up the economy and it hits people in the pocket? You're going to get punished for it. You're going to get punished for it. Right, that was fact number 3. Fact number 4, right to buy ending. So the right to buy ending. I know that in the budget they already announced a reduction in the discounts, so sort of phasing it out. But if Angela Rayner carries out this promise, then this will be very disappointing news for those council tenants who were hoping to or planning to buy, because they're not going to be able to. But it is good news overall for the rest of the housing market as a whole. Right, there are winners and losers here. The losers are the tenants that will no longer be able to buy their council homes. The winners are the rest of the housing market, because it is the shortage of social housing that's causing the shortage of private rented housing. Okay, and therefore the high rents. So this is a good move that I fully support, that should have been done a while ago, that is not going to make much difference to the overall problem, but it is a step in the right direction. They still need to build hundreds of thousands of social homes to have any chance of actually improving the housing crisis. But because no one in the Labour government is numerate and can fucking add up, excuse my French, before 9 p.m., I'm afraid they just don't seem to understand how many houses. Now, in the same article, it's on the BBC website, by the way. I'm sorry I haven't got links prepared today. I'm sorry, this week's just been an absolute cluster, you know what, one way or another. In the same article on the BBC website, which announces that Angela is going to end right to buy. She also talks about having the biggest social house building program since World War II. Well, that's more like it. That's more like it. That's what we need to see and what we need to hear. Whether or not she'll deliver remains to be seen. But that is what needs to happen. Okay. Have I covered everything? Right to buy, Sainsbury's base rate cut, house price highs. Yeah, why it just can't be yes. So I'm going to finish up by addressing. Let's just see if we've got any questions here. Wow, loads and loads. Guys, I'm sorry, I haven't got time to go through all of your comments, and I haven't been watching the comments. If you've got a question, you really. No, that's not true, Visual Ghoul. I gave the last government absolute hell. I did. The previous government was also shocking in their policies and they're handling the housing market. They were shocking, and I gave them a terrible time about it. These guys are just even worse. Social housing is desperately needed, Archibald. Yes, you're right. If you've got questions, copy and paste them, put them back in, put them at the top of the live chat. What was the last thing I wanted to talk about? Oh, guys, it's been a long week. I have not had much sleep, and it's been pretty tough. Oh yeah, the 35. Okay, my house price expectations. So I still get a lot of trolls. And by the way, let me define what I mean by a troll. I mean anyone who is basically childish and mocking and personal rather than just asking questions or disagreeing constructively. And I'm going to repeat what I said 2 years ago. Well, it was more than 2 years ago. It was the summer of 2022 when I said, no, it was September. It was just over 2 years ago that I expected house prices to fall from peak to trough, right? Over however long that takes. I said 35%, varying between 15% and 50%. And I still expect that to happen. It's just looking like it's going to take longer than I thought. If you go and look at the prices, you'll see that prices did peak in 2022, and they've just kind of been flatlining and sliding a bit. And I've never said crash. I've always said slide. Now, there are already plenty of markets where, especially larger detached houses, have seen 15 to 20% falls. Guess what? It's not reported. There are already markets where there are flats to sell piling up that can't and won't sell. There are already sellers who think they're being realistic and perhaps through no fault of their own because they're being misled by agents aren't, and they're not going to sell. And as the data on Best Agent shows, on the Best Agent house price index, the ratio of unsold homes to sold homes is now 4.6 to 1. And Rightmove confirms that the amount of property on the market is at a record for the last 10 years and going up. And so I'm absolutely certain that there are already some places where property has already come down by 30%. Right? Not all of it, because at the first-time buyer level, there's been not only the typical demand you need and get from first-time buyers, although with less money to spend, but also because there's been this downsizing happening. Right? And the downsizing, the rise in the number of downsizers has changed the mix of transaction values, which affects this fictional average house price figure they come up with, right? It is affected by volumes, values, and changes in typical patterns of transactions. And it is covering up what's really happening there. And even in some of the strongest markets, like Bristol, where I am at the moment, right? I'm in Bristol. I'm in a hotel in Bristol. Very good hotel, by the way. Molly's Motel and Diner. Highly recommend it. Incredible value for money. Very nice rooms. Great food. I mean, surprisingly good value for money. There you are. Little plug for them. They deserve it, though. Even in markets like Bristol, I've had people contacting me and saying, I've dropped my price. I'm still getting no interest. Don't know what's happening. I thought the market was good here. Okay. And because I think that next year, 2025, is going to be so harsh, and yes, there are lots of people saying, Freddie, what's his name? The 18-year property cycle guy who's predicted that prices would crash in 2026. I've never predicted that. But if I'm right about where prices are going, we won't see it being reported until 2026 at the earliest. It is truly weird how long the economy has held on and the housing market has held on. But I think, so many agents that I talk to, yes, there are agents that say people always need to move. Of course, people always need to move. But if fewer people can afford to move, transaction volumes come down. If transaction volumes come down, transaction times take longer and fall throughs go up. It gets harder and more expensive to sell houses, and it's difficult for everyone. And my whole mission is more people moving house, more transactions, because that liquidity helps everyone, individually movers, the industry as a whole, the moving industry, and society. Social mobility is better. Right, guys, I am struggling. I'm very tired, and I've got a lot left to do today, and I think I'm just rambling pointlessly now. So, do we have any questions? I can see you guys all having lots and lots of chats with each other. And okay, here we are. Organized mud. Hi, Charlie. If you're right, surely recent house price declines would have shown up sometime in at least one index. You'd need to. Thank you for the perfectly reasonable challenge and reasonable question. This is how to not be a troll. It's how to ask a question in a civilized manner rather than be a defensive dickhead, which you're definitely not being, Organized mud. So it's difficult to explain. I did a video that actually demonstrated with a spreadsheet how house price. I did this. It was a very, very, very rough demonstration, but it was a mathematical demonstration on a spreadsheet that showed how the average figure and the median figure are very different, and one can go up and the other one goes down. In the US, they measure the house price indices use median house prices, not average, because they're very, very different. And the house price declines are affected by the volume of transactions, the volume at the higher end versus the volume at the lower end, and what's happening in the price differences in those two. Okay. So even when house prices are falling across the board, even if house prices at the higher end are down and house prices at the lower end are down, but there are more transactions than usual at the higher end and fewer transactions than usual at the lower end, the average is higher. Even though all of the prices have come down, the average figure goes up. And that's why the house price indices aren't reflecting the reality of what's happening in the market. None of them publish their calculation methodology. So we can't look and see. They don't tell us what their sample size is. They don't tell us what their mix adjustment methodology is. They just say, oh, we all use hedonic regression, blah, blah, blah. But they don't publish anything, so you can't see it. And that's why the Best Agent Exchange Public House Price Index will publish the full data set when it's ready so that people can scrutinize the actual numbers and interpret them and see what's really going on at different levels. But so Organized mud, if I'm right, surely, and this is the problem, right? People like you assume that if I was right, surely the house price indices would show them. Don't forget also, right, that even the ONS, when they release their house price index figures each month, they revise them again and again and again and again every month after that, but they never the revisions are never published in the news, and they always get revised down. And I mean, I think it was from memory. I put the graph up on a recent live stream. I could find it again now quickly to show you, because this is a really important thing that helps answer this question about why no, you'd expect it to, but actually no. And even Richard Donnell, who does the Super House Price Index, put out in a tweet somewhere that I've also got, but can't find it now, saying that the mix adjustment will change. And I can't find it. It's Otter Property. There it is. No, I will find it. This is worth the time to answer this point, because it's a really important point. Here it is. Right, let me share the screen and show you this, because it just points it out. So important. This graph is land registry data. And I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer on here or not, but there, that line at the top is the average, the ONS's price index, average house price, as reported in November 2023. Okay? And then in December 2023, it was revised down. And then in January 2024, it was revised way down here. And then it goes down, 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 down. So it's never revised up. That's the point. So the first readout we get from the ONS every week, which is the only one that hits the papers never report on the subsequent revisions, right? The first readout we get is always too high and gets revised down. And in this case, you're talking about revised down from 292,000 down to 285,000. Sorry, 291,000. So that's a £6,000 reduction. And if that was reported at the time, then what would have been house prices have gone up year on year by 1.2% would have actually been no. House prices have gone down year on year 1.2%. It would completely change the headlines. But the revisions never make the headlines, so you never ever see. And the ONS just says, oh, no, we're not manipulating anything. It's just that the first one that gets put out is an estimate. It's an estimate which will revise later. And they do revise it. It's just weird how the first one is always the highest and then it gets revised down, 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 down. So I hope that answers that very important and very fair question, okay? That is why the house price indices are not reflecting what's really happening. And when I've got the best data house price index working, I will be able to show you, to prove what I'm saying. Okay. What other questions do we have here? James says, I'm in the process of changing agent. I feel my existing agent has merely listed on Rightmove. James, thank you for that. I'd like to ask you, what made you choose that agent? Did they give you the highest valuation? Did they quote a low fee? Because remember, the cheapest agent to sell your house is the one that A, actually sells it, because if they don't sell it, you haven't saved anything, and B, sells it for the highest price. Which is why I always say to ignore the fee, ask them about what their plan is to get you the highest possible, what their plan is to get you competing bidders. Because the market sets the price. The market sets the price. In sales and lettings, the market sets the price of actual transactions. Agents and sellers set asking prices, and agents and landlords can set asking prices on rents, but the market dictates what the price is, and that is what a lot of people don't understand. Snoopy says, how on earth are the mainstream media getting away with their propaganda? It's not even propaganda. It's just clickbait. They just publish press releases and go, oh, this is what they've said. Look at that. And we all go, oh, record house prices. We all do an Abbey and go, oh my God, everyone's going to be house price. Boom. Sorry. It's very frustrating because there are people who believe her and then go out and borrow money on what she said and then wonder why they're trapped in a mortgage they can't get out of years later. Okay, so here's an example of a troll. House prices always go up nominally. I thought they were going to slide 35%. Both things are possible, right? In the long run, house prices always go up nominally. Well, actually, not even in Japan they don't, but they always have done nominally, okay? But you put inflation in and it has ups and downs. My point is that there are repeated points when it's all record house price, all record house price. At some point in the future, house prices will get higher than they are now. Not much. And when you take out inflation, it'll be way lower. But that's why it's record house price, record house price, record house price. All prices go up. Like you can pick anything you like, and we can say record prices, record prices, record prices. But if you're a mathematical numpty and you see a headline that says record prices, your automatic thing is record prices. Oh my goodness me. And that's why so many sellers who perhaps maths isn't their strong point are going, if house prices are a record, why haven't I got any buyers? Why can't I sell? I've reduced my price. Why can't I sell? I advertised it for what the agent told me to. Why can't I sell? Matt Brand says the fee battle is real right now and agents are desperate for market share. More transparency is key, but most agents will do anything for instruction. That is true. So Lynn says Sainsbury's made £567 million profit last year. Pay your workers. Yeah, your point is right. But £140 million is about a quarter of their profits, 25% of their profits. If they were to just absorb that, their owners, their shareholders, who are pension fund managers and the like, will punish them by selling their shares, and their share price will come down. And Sainsbury's, the directors and managers of Sainsbury's, their job is not to do what they want or what they think. They don't decide. They have to do what they are directed by their board, and their board has to do what they're directed by their shareholders, and their shareholders direct them to maximize profits. That is what they're legally required to do. And a lot of people think, oh, they're just these evil rich guys at the top thinking, no, stuff the workers, rinse the profits. They don't have a choice. When you are a publicly listed company, you don't have a choice. You are legally required to run the business in the best interests of your shareholders. Is that good or bad? I'm not talking about whether it is. That's just the fact. And so if increasing national insurance contributions and minimum wage for Sainsbury's is going to add £140 million of cost, that's 25% roughly of their profit. And their shareholders will not allow them to have profits drop 25% without punishing them on the stock market. What else do we have here? See, almost there again. You've got this typical approach that the ONS data reports sales prices are broadly flat across the UK. No, they don't. If you actually go and look at the ONS's house price calculator for the regions, you'll see that there are very large fluctuations. And what you're saying here is a classic case of the mistake most people make. They think, ONS data, well, it's government, well, it's official, well, it's land registry, must be right. And you just assume it means the same for all house prices. And it doesn't. Wrong. Don't think that. Why does nobody else say this? I don't understand it. Yes, it's very, very lagged as well. Yeah, and again, sorry to pick, I'm not picking on you almost there, but if boards go down and a removal van turns up, I mean, it's the safe bet that didn't fall through, obviously, but you don't know what the sale price was, and you won't find out for 6 to 12 months after that, which is why no one knows what's really happening. Right, let me whip to the bottom. Yeah, Ruby on YouTube says, I'm in a chain. It's been 5 long months. Eagerly waiting to exchange. You were right about the painstakingly long time it takes to buy a house these days. And this is something else that if you've never been in that situation, you don't know about. When you are in a chain like that, you are in limbo. You cannot move on with your life one way or the other. If your transaction completes, you can move on with your life. If your transaction falls through, you can move on with your life. Whatever happens, one way or the other, right? You're either back to square one, starting again, or you're moving on. When you're in a chain, you are in limbo. You are in limbo. You cannot proceed with any of your life plans until you've exchanged. And that is a massively costly thing. It's really, really bad. And it's why we've got to get shorter transaction times. Oh yeah, there was another fact today, just out today. Vistry Homes, one of the biggest house builders in the country, has put out a profit warning. And again, why would house builders be putting out profit warnings if house prices are at record highs? You see what I mean? It all is not well in the housing market. Gabrielle Sibianu says, "You are trying too much, Charlie, but house prices do not care whatsoever." Yes, you're right. What I'm trying to do is to help people understand how the market operates, and I will never stop trying hard. And there's no, you can't try too much, can you? House prices don't care. Correct. House prices don't care. This is what you need to say to sellers. The market doesn't care what you think your house is worth. The market doesn't care what the agent valued your house at. The market doesn't care about anything other than what it's going to offer for your house. So thank you, Gabrielle. That's a good point. Rocco says, right move, West Sussex flooded with ex-rental properties this week. Houses starting with a 2 or 3 on their price. There's been hardly anything for the last 3 years, about a 4 at the start of the price. You see, this is a good point. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if it's, let's just take it at face value. Suddenly the market being flooded with ex-rental properties in certain places. Is that happening as a result of the budget? It might well be. There's no real-time live data to show this. Paul Rannell says, if I was an estate agent, I would tell buyers the market is good and tell sellers the market was bad. I understand what you're saying there, but if you told sellers the market was bad, those sellers wouldn't use you to sell their house, and you wouldn't have any houses to sell to the buyers who you want to tell it's good. That's the problem. Yeah. Peter Liano says, small and medium enterprise business owners, funnily enough, the press call them millionaires, are all leaving. Many of my friends have or are leaving. This is true. People confuse business owners with being rich. Most business owners are in debt. Yeah. Wow. Loops Furious says, a small 2-bed freehold I saw last month in Clapham Common has just dropped 50k today. Still on my price range, but seems to be going the right direction. Yeah. But record house prices, right? Ugh. Right, guys. It's time to wrap up. Any last minute questions? Otherwise, newsletter subscribers, sorry you haven't had a full in writing one. I will send this video out by email to everyone who's subscribed to the newsletter. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, you can do so here, and you'll get it every week in your inbox on a Friday, even today. But today it's only because I have a link to this video for the people that didn't catch me on YouTube. And remember, if you are buying, having your mortgage in principle ready in advance of offering, having your conveyancer appointed in advance of offering, and having a property search pack ready to buy in advance of offering, all increase the chances of your offer being accepted at no extra cost, right? Because if you're serious about buying, you're going to have a conveyancer, you're going to have a mortgage. Why wait until after you've made your offer and then your offer doesn't get accepted because someone else was more prepared than you? Be prepared, and your chances of getting your offer accepted are much higher. And don't forget, you can use my offer email template. Just look up MHWC offer email. Just search any search engine, MHWC offer email. It'll come straight up. That offer email template works really, really well. It's used. I found out that mortgage brokers I don't even know are recommending it to their buyers to use to make an offer. Okay, so make sure that you have everything lined up before you offer, because if you don't, you're literally missing out on a free opportunity to get your lower offer accepted. And if you are a seller, I cannot say this enough. If moving on with your life depends upon selling your home, then you must choose your agent like your future depends on it, because it does. And agents can't and won't say it publicly because it's not what sellers want to hear. But privately, almost all agents I talk to, there are a few going, mate, it's brilliant, I'm smashing it. And they are, because they're very, very good agents. And so they're doing very well in their market, but they're in the minority. Mostly agents are going, never known the market this hard. Yes, people are buying. Yes, people are selling, but getting deals tied up is harder than it's been for a long time. And getting them over the line in exchange and holding chains together is really seriously hard work. So choose your agent like your life depends on it, but choose your conveyancer first. 3 reasons. You'll get a lower fee from your agent. You'll get more people competing to buy your property because it's going to be able to sell faster. You'll get a higher price. I cannot state this often enough. If you appoint a conveyancer as a seller, if you appoint a conveyancer before you go and choose an agent, you will get a better fee. The agent will sell your house faster, and you will get more money for it, because buyers will choose if there's a choice of many similar properties to yours, and yours is contract ready because you went to a conveyancer and got yourself and your sale contract ready before coming to the market, buyers will want to buy yours, because then it's going to be a 1 or 2 month transaction rather than a 5-month hellhole in limbo nightmare. And it will cost you, not only will it not cost you any extra than what you're going to have to pay anyway, you'll get a lower fee from your agent. All right. And if you make sure you choose a good conveyancer, if a bad conveyancer will lose you your sale or your purchase, do not choose cheap conveyancers. Cheap conveyancers don't respond when they need to. Cheap conveyancers don't react when something needs reaction to. They need to be chased and chased and chased, and they're overworked and they're underpaid and they don't have enough staff. Cheap conveyancers are a massive mistake and a massive risk. Look for quality. Find someone that answers the phone impressively quickly. Find a conveyancer that calls back when they say they will. Those are the basic signs of a better conveyancer, right? And then I could talk about that more, but yeah. Buying or selling, get your representation ready before you go to market. Conveyancer, mortgage in principle, get everything ready first, and you'll come to market and you will transact faster than other people. And my last shameless plug, a shameless plug, because I am a shameless man. Actually, on Wednesday night, after the weekly Wednesday workshop at 8, we had the Private Movers Club live Q&A, and it was the best one yet. So it's a Zoom call. It's not actually Zoom. I use something else, but it's like a Zoom call, a video Zoom call. And we had 5 or 6 of us in the room, and we had all the people in different situations, mostly buyers. No, I don't think there was a seller. They were all buyers. And it's a private, unrecorded, unpublished, will never get published, live forum where I can get really into depth with your situation, your questions about your moving situation. We had one lady who'd had an offer accepted on a property. It was her first property. And when the survey came back, there was an issue with the survey. And the costs of solving that problem were going to be higher than she expected. And so she went back to renegotiate with the seller, and the seller wouldn't accept the new lower price. She didn't want to lose the sale, but she also didn't want to pay the price they wanted to ask. We discussed how to get around that problem. We had a very fortunate follower who is in a lovely situation of having the money in a position to buy, doesn't know where he wants to buy, where he wants to live, could go anywhere. And we're talking about all kinds of creative options about what you could buy and what you can buy and then build on, or all kinds of stuff. It was really interesting and fun conversation. Someone else who's got a really good, healthy budget for a first-time home, but had a knotweed problem with the property they offered on first, which only came up during the survey, and the knotweed problem has effectively derailed the transaction, and he's now looking again, and he can't find anything else like it. And I'm recommending. So you see what I'm saying, right? This is what you get if you're in the private live movers Q&A. Access to 2 a month of these private, always Wednesday evening, every other Wednesday evening at 9:30. It's the first and the third Wednesday. So next week it's not that. Next week it's the Charlie and Stig show at 10 o'clock. And there's so much for us to go into, and it's so nice because again it's off. It's a private Zoom call. Actually, people don't come on video and that so much. They're welcome to, but it's just me and Stig chatting away on video, and everyone else able to chime in with questions in the live chat and stuff. But it's private and it's uncensored. It's what I mean is it gets pretty heated and pretty graphic and pretty entertaining. You can join both of those 2 clubs at that link right there, and if you in the description below, there's also another link. And as long as there are 473 of you still watching, I'm going to keep on plugging and seeing if I've got any more questions or comments here. Mad Max 2000 says, excellent, I'll be joining. Fantastic. By the way, someone told me that they tried to join and it didn't work. The payment didn't work. Can anyone else confirm that? Trying to join on buymeacoffee.com/MHWC and not able to join or buy me a coffee. Creed, I have a question here that I want to answer. Charlie, I've been informed by my mortgage in principle provider that the interest rates will go up slightly as a result of the autumn budget. Do you think I should wait for a rate fall? Short answer, no, because I'm assuming you need and want to buy a home. Longer answer, if you wait, what do you do if they keep on going up even further? Right? There are people, I'm not saying I'm one of them, but there are people and economists who think there is a significant risk of a rise in inflation next year and mortgage and borrowing rates going up higher. Even if they don't raise the Bank of England base rate, if gilt yields go higher and swap rates go higher, mortgages go higher still. So if you've got an offer, I would try to find somewhere if you want to buy a home. But waiting, if your reason for buying a home is to have a home to live in, never wait, just don't overpay. And the reason I would say don't wait is because the way that you can offset the increasing cost of a mortgage is by offering a lower price on the properties that you're buying. Of course, many sellers won't accept that, but if mortgage rates are going up for everyone, that's going to be a depressing effect on house prices for everyone as well. So there's no need to wait. Waiting for lower rates is a mug's game. It's a gamble. It rarely pays off. And it's really only something that you should do if you are actually gambling. If you're buying or selling to move home, never wait. Get on with your life. It kind of sorts itself out. Actually, I saw that hilarious. I put it on Twitter. I found it. Let me find it. Because it says in one simple image, it says why you shouldn't wait. Come on, load up. Oh, that's the wrong place. Hang on. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth the wait for this, guys. Hang on. Where are we? Come on. It's a Halloween one. Here it is. It's brilliant. Here we go. Check it out. All right. Does that answer your question? Yeah. The answer is no. Don't wait, but just don't overpay. Great question here. Roz02 on YouTube asks, original offer outbid. Estate agent has come back to say it's back on the market. Seller still not found a property 2 months down the line. Red flag. I'm a first-time buyer. No, it's not a red flag. It's a concern. A red flag is something that should probably make you walk away. If the agent has come back to you, that's a really good sign that you might actually get it not only for what you first offered, but maybe even less now. The thing to do is to ask your estate agent what's changed in the seller's situation. You know, you're not interested in offering unless you're sure the seller's going to be moving out, because you don't want to have your time wasted. Because again, time as a buyer, if you have an offer accepted, then the seller doesn't move out, your time and your money and your life opportunity is wasted. So in that scenario, go back, make another offer. Don't offer more than your maximum comfortable amount. Do not listen to their manipulation. Oh, that's not enough, you have to offer more. Sorry, as you know, with the greatest will in the world and politely as possible, please fuck off. I'm not going to offer more than I'm comfortable paying. No one ever should. But say to them, it's conditional upon the seller's conveyancer issuing a memorandum of sale to your conveyancer within 2 weeks of accepting the offer. That's one of the conditions that I put down. And conditional upon exchanging within whatever time frame you want, whether they found somewhere to move to or not. And if they don't, and they haven't, and they can't commit to that, then you go, look, I'm not going to risk wasting my time. I want confirmation that the seller's got to move out. This is hard if you're a seller. I get it. It's a difficult situation, but you know, oh, well done, Joanne Ward. I love people who listen to me. So Joanne is a seller. I just returned the paperwork and initial payment to your conveyancers today. Going to market in another 10 days. There you are, getting contract ready before going to market. Please keep us updated, Joanne. I would love to know how that goes. What else do we have here? Dennis Haggerty says, question, I am out of area and need an agent in the Spalding area who sells and not sits on properties. But hasn't asked a question. Dennis, what's your question? Follow up with the question. Matt makes a very valid challenge. Charlie, the Halifax and Nationwide indexes followed the crash in 2008 very closely. Any crash should show up in the indexes. Well, again, Matt, I would point out the fact that I've always said there's not going to be a crash. I've said there's going to be a slide. Also, both of them have changed their methodology of calculating it since then, which they are free to do because they can do whatever they like. And guess what? When they change their methodology, do you think it helps them sell more mortgages or goes against them the other way? Just asking question. And of course, what happened last time, which hasn't and isn't happening at the moment, or certainly hasn't happened yet, is that there was a sudden financial shock. There was an overnight shock. And lending dried up overnight. Buyers couldn't get mortgages. And so there was an actual crash of prices when that happened. I've always said slide, not crash, but for some reason, I cannot seem to get anyone to remember that I've said not a crash, a slide. I don't know why. People just remember Charlie said crash. No, I've never said crash. Why do people think I said crash? I don't get it. It annoys me. Paul Runnell says loads of people have moved to Bristol, not in houses, caravans and camper vans. Yeah. The real crash has not happened yet. There may be a crash. I'm not expecting a crash. I'm expecting a long and far slide. Question regarding searches. Janelle B says, if the search is in the last 3 months, but the sale takes longer than that to complete, will you need to buy a new search pack for the same property? Right. Check with the search pack provider. Some of them are actually valid for up to 6 months. Not the whole pack needs to be replaced. Just certain parts of it need to be updated. And so talk to your search pack provider about that. But yes, there are elements of the search pack that do go out of date. It's not it's just the lenders that say it's just a stipulation from lenders. The search pack must have been issued within 90 days of the completion date, or some of them say 180 days. Lee Yo says, what can I claim if the seller isn't ready and still in the property after the deadline? I.e., the seller's brother is living there and hasn't moved his stuff out, and is it worth legal costs? Unfortunately, there's nothing you can claim because there's been no contract signed. So there's no legal claim for it. It's very, very frustrating. Your best bet is to talk to the agent and say to the agent, how long am I expected to carry on sucking up this delay and the costs and everything else? Should I start looking for another property? And see if the agent can help expedite the solution to the problem. But there's no legal claim that you can make that I'm aware of, because you've got no contract, no signed agreement under which you can claim that they've breached it, which is what you'd need, roughly speaking. I'm not a lawyer. That's just based on my basic knowledge. And that if you're a buyer and you have a conveyancer, that's also a question for your conveyancer. Gav will fix it. Has a life question. If that's okay, pal, it's always okay. All questions are okay. 46. Just divorced. Sorry to hear that. She has house and most savings. I'm okay to live in the house for 12 months. Saved 25k. Do I buy now or wait 12 months? Will cost me nothing to wait. Okay, understand that. So if I understand you correctly, you can live in the house for another year, therefore you've got no additional living costs, so you're not in a hurry. Bear in mind that buying and completing, you should be allowing a minimum of 6 months. A minimum. It might happen less, but allow yourself a minimum of 6 months, even for a chain-free property, okay? And you've got to find somewhere. Now, people who've watched me a long time, and I don't recognize your name, Gav, so I think you must be new here, so welcome, will know that the answer to this is never wait, always be out looking, because you may well find somewhere that's where you want to live at a price that they accept your offer, and you can move on with your life sooner. So there are almost no circumstances in which I would suggest anyone to wait. So crack on. Ailes or Ailes says Charlie doesn't want to know the reality. Which reality don't I want to know? I do. I always want to know reality. Let me know what reality you're talking about. What's the difference between a slide and a crash? Asks MS asterisk on YouTube. Go to your local playground, climb up to the top of the slide, and do two things. First of all, go down the slide, and then the next time, climb up and then jump off the top to the side. That's the difference. Alex Browning asks, what are your views on the pedestrianisation of Norwich city centre? Alex, I'm afraid I don't have any views on that at all, unfortunately. Yeah, okay. Right, guys, way too long on this. Oh my God, it's 4:30. How did that happen? How many of you are laughing at the fact that I still haven't ended the live stream? You're like, what is it, 20 minutes after I said I'd end the live stream? Right, get your property pack there if you're a buyer. Join the Private Movers Q&A Club there, or the Charlie and Stig show there. Talk to my conveyancers there, mhwc.co.uk/conveyancing. Talk to my mortgage brokers on the same, but it's /mortgage. And just get yourself prepared before you start talking to agents. Be prepared before you start talking to agents. Be in control of your move before you talk to agents. And there's also this page here, mhwc.co.uk/all-my-ducks. All my ducks with hyphens. Oh, okay, Dennis, you put your question just in time. How can I find a good agent when I live out of area, short of staying there for a week and putting in the legwork? Right. If you live out of area, the first thing I would do is I would ring as many, make a list of all the agents. Right? This will take you some time, but it's important enough to do it. First of all, go to bestagent.co.uk and try the find your agent function. That's free to use. And depending where you are, you'll get more or fewer agents responding, but go to bestagent.co.uk and try find your agent. Second to that, write a list of all the agents you can find. I would avoid the Connells and the big corporates because you won't get the personal attention from them. Typically, there are exceptions, but typically you won't. I would always be looking for owner-managed independent agents where the person's name is above the door and they've got their personal reputation at stake. I would be looking for people who've been in this market a long time and have experienced previous downturns. I'd be looking for agents that don't have lots of unsold property sitting on their books for months and months and months. That is a massive warning sign of an agent. Loads of property that's been on the market for more than 3 months, especially if it's more than 6 months, that's a big warning sign. But I would ring them all. And I would, really rough thing, right? List all the agents, draw a column next to each one and go, score out of 10 for how professionally they answered the phone. Some won't answer the phone and they'll ask you to leave a message. Leave a message and ask them to call you back, and then score them on who calls back and who doesn't. And you'll be amazed how many won't even call you back, even when you've got a property to sell, because some of them are just that incompetent. And if they can't call you back when you say you've got a property to sell in their area, imagine how many buyer inquiries they're going to miss. Yes, Liam, it is a Molly's. I'm in Molly's, Bristol. And then when you start talking to them over the phone, ask if you could do a video call with them. One of the things you can do on Best Agent, by the way, if they respond to you on the Best Agent Find Your Agent function, is we provide a video call with you, platform with them where you don't have to give them your contact details if you don't want to yet. The question you need to ask is, what do you do that other agents don't do to get competing buyers? Sundazing says, we've used Find My Agent for Portugal. Not a great response, but it helped weed them out. Fantastic. If it's helping at all, that's great. Yeah, I can't force the agents who are responding or not responding. And some areas of the country have got much higher numbers of agents responding than others on Best Agent, but it's picking up. There are new agents joining every day. And if you're an agent watching this and you haven't joined, go to bestagent.co.uk, click on agents, and activate your free back office account, and you'll actually get these leads. I'm just going to say goodbye now. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. All the best. Bye now. Don't overpay. Choose your agent like your future depends on it, because it does. And disregard the guff, guys.